Hi, everyone, and welcome to Outside the Box, where we talk about all things innovation in order pickup. Hi, everyone. I'm Rochelle Berry, and I'm here today with Ben Anderson, Director of Strategic Sales at Grubhub. Thanks, Ben, for joining us today.
Absolutely. It's great to be here.
I'm really excited to interview you because I think I've known you for, I don't know, it feels like a decade. We've kind of grown up in this industry together, and I want to congratulate you first and foremost so that I don't forget on your recent award from NACUFS. I guess it's been almost a year since you received it, but the Dale Van Hook Industry Appreciation Award. So congratulations.
Thank you so much for that. It's been a great group, and it had been a decade. I figured I would have to wait another one before I got the award, but was very honored to receive it.
I think you're so well deserving. I mean, I've seen you, like I said, grow up in this industry. You have earned that. You show up, you step up in every single way in the industry, not just with NACUFS, but I'm sure you carry that out throughout your journey. So you very, very much deserved.
That means a lot. I really, really appreciate that. And, it's been a pleasure to work with the industry. Food people, campus people are really good folks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you've broadened your reach. So I think let's just dive in and talk about how you started. When I first met you, you were with Topingo, which has joined Grubhub. So talk a little bit about that and where you started.
Great. Yeah. Wow. Well, it's been a little over 10 years. Originally, the company was called Topingo, acquired by Grubhub, and now it's a division within Grubhub called Grubhub Campus or Grubhub Onsite. And the DNA goes back to the decade. So it really feels like a group really, focused on the non-traditional food service space, partnered with colleges. So in a lot of ways, it's been a very similar job and role for about a decade, but clearly having a big company behind us, supporting us, continue to evolve. The mission is really, helpful, refreshing, cool to be a part of.
What are you seeing now, and what other growing industries within that are you working with?
Yeah, we've done work in healthcare and corporate dining, stadiums, professional and at the collegiate level. Also hospitality, hotels, resorts, casinos have become big opportunities. And, if you think about evolution in food service, you tend to see that higher ed tends to be an early mover, and these other sectors tend to move a little bit after that. But, it's been a really cool evolution of the product. The same challenges a dining venue has on a college can be similar to that at a stadium or these other environments. So we've always try to keep a big lens on it. How do we solve the problems of food service today? How do we partner uniquely with each of these sectors? And really, most importantly, think ahead, how we continue to be at the forefront of innovation in college dining and dining bigger picture too.
Yeah, right. And, when I first met you, I was on the collegiate dining side, and now on the industry side myself with Apex Order Pickup. And while Apex was introduced to you through the lockers, I'm well aware that you're working with robots and other things that you're integrating. So can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing and from both the customer service side and what the operators are requiring?
Sure. A lot of it's driven by, what customers want. Nowadays, a student going into college has experienced mobile ordering, experienced delivery, may have experienced lockers or robotic delivery before going into the environment. So the landscape has changed a bit. But when you think about the consumer process, there's the consumer interface. So where they're ordering from, and that's evolved. Was historically you had to walk up and be physically present to order, and now with kiosks and mobile ordering, the point of purchase has changed. And then you think about how that then impacts the operations. Now you have different orders going into the back of house in different ways. And then the third part of that puzzle, which has evolved over 20, 30, 40, 50 years, is how the student gets their food or the consumer gets. And that's really where we've seen a ton of evolution. Lockers, robots, and it goes back to old adage of kind of meeting the consumer where they are. I think that's, so, these products have been out on the market, but to your point, we're now working with locker companies, robot delivery companies, considered and looked at, drone companies in the past. And it's really all about, merging that, making sure that the campuses and the partners we work with are representing themselves to the students as being at the forefront of technology, being innovative. That's very important to some universities. But more important than that, this isn't technology for technology's sake. It's really about restructuring how consumers want to get food, and especially in an evolving labor environment, how operators want to produce and deliver food, whether it's pickup, whatever the mechanism is. So, the world kind of keeps changing. I think we see it as our job to be making sure that we have the product that works for the customer today, and then in doing that, the value to the customer, they don't have to worry about what the next new thing is. When you're partnered with us, we integrate with the next thing for you. So how you kind of create both consistency from the consumer experience, but create a platform that allows both the operator and the consumer to evolve with the technology without having to do the heavy lifting. And I'm sure we'll dive into it, but that's really where a lot of the evolution of technology has come, how easy it is for these systems to communicate and work with each other. So, in this evolving technology landscape, how do you create seamless, efficient experiences for the customer and the operator?
So when you're working and looking for a strategic partner like Apex, what are you looking to solve? What problem are you solving? Or what characteristics are you looking for in those strategic partners?
Yeah, great question. I think it goes back to what the customer wants. And, it's a twofold customer. It's what the student wants out of college, and it's what the operations team or the administration wants. And Lockers and Apex do an awesome job of meeting in the middle there, right? As I mentioned, the labor environment, it was bad pre-COVID. It's worse now, more challenging to staff. So thinking about how you can create unmanned pickup becomes a really neat solution. There can be these labor savings there. So I think first and foremost, you want to find partners that see the vision, right? No campus wants to do technology just for the sake of it. They want to do it because they're solving a problem. And that's, kind of first and foremost, make sure that we're aligned in, what is it that we're solving? And for lockers and dining, we're solving for, how we conveniently allow options for students in a way that doesn't need added labor or additional labor for the customer now, or for the operator. And again, that can look different in different environments. But you really need to, be aligned on that mission level too, because this isn't just about making changes or implementations today. A campus that brings a locker system in, hopefully that's something they have forever and continue to evolve with. So I think you got to, in some ways start with that big picture alignment on an individual campus level. All these factors, kind of whirlwinding together, labor, contactless, convenience for customers, lockers, and this idea of remote pickup or unattended pickup become really cool, both short-term solutions for universities, but also critically long-term as they think about redesigning physical space, redesigning unions, redesigning their dining environment.
Outside of the collegiate world, what else are you seeing? Like you mentioned healthcare, other restaurants, what else is happening out there that you're having to react to or hearing about that they're solving?
Yeah, great question. The data side is a little different depending on the sector. So in healthcare, there may be concerns about HIPAA or maybe concerns about obviously allergens and being able to denote those in apps. So I think when you think about the healthcare sector and other sectors, sometimes there's these unique challenges there. But bigger picture, all non-traditional dining environments tend to run into those same challenges of congestion, opening hours, this goal of how to make service available. It's sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place. How do you expand hours and provide more sets of service, broader service, more consistent service, yet do it in a way that isn't messing with the labor model? So I think what I found is the same conversations I was having in higher ed 10 years ago are conversations we've had with, pro stadiums and large, B&I and corporate and healthcare facilities now. And not that the needs are different, but, I think with the truth of higher ed is nowhere besides higher ed, with the exception of correction, do you have that tight of a kind of a pivot point between the consumer and the dining room? How many orders need to be done in a lunch rush? A college student relies on food service on the campus 3 to 5 times a day. So I think the challenges that we find in higher ed are similar to the challenges we see elsewhere, but the needs are greater because of that unique relationship between the college student and the food service arm of the dining operation.
That's really good feedback. So when you're thinking about some of the biggest successes you've seen across any of these food service industries, what stands out in your mind of like, wow, we really hit out of the park with that client?
Yeah, the example that comes to mind first is actually an Apex example. It's a Rider University location, and it was the first location. We started talking about this about 5 years ago, but to my knowledge, it was one of the first locations doing a kind of ghost kitchen concept. And just to take a little bit of a step back, there's all these kind of ghost kitchen, sort of virtual kitchen, all these ideas sort of floating through. And really what it's about is how you create an efficient operational setup to be able to provide food service in a way where it isn't a direct, walk-up consumer experience. And this example at Jersey Mike's was a great example of, due to a renovation, they were able to remodel a location. So it was effectively a production kitchen presenting out to a set of locker windows. I think it was a really cool use case to show how you can redesign a physical facility and location and still, do a lot of throughput, but in a way that has a completely different labor model. And the reason I was so excited about that is this is not a solution for every retail environment. I mean, clearly a college still wants to have students sit down and interact, but in some environments, and especially ones where we're really feeling the pinch of labor, maybe a cafe in the engineering building on the other side of campus, those environments can see so much value in rethinking how they are modeled. So I think proving out that you can have a very successful retail operation without having the same front of house labor model and having a pass through to a locker system was really cool. Because that's where I get excited is you start to see the physical world evolve because of the technology. And when you see that marriage, that's where you really start to see these huge labor savings benefits on the dining side, when you can kind of build for the technology, not build in spite of the technology.
Yeah, and I'm thinking too about the consistent branding. I know that your technology can be branded, lockers can be branded. So saving costs, you're increasing throughput by, and then increasing your profit margin, of course. And then you've got this consistent branding, which you're adding the experience, which to me, the branding's not just how something looks, right? It's the experience, it's what the customer feels. So I'm hoping that these fun technologies and innovations are helping with that experience. Have you received any feedback on that, like the fun factor, the experiential factor?
Yeah, absolutely. The fun factor, I think, is kind of the obvious point one. And, I skip it sometimes because, I'm sort of in the trenches with the operations where, kind of the rubber meets the road with a lot of these products. But absolutely, I think that's, even if there was a net neutral benefit to operations, right? You were able to make some labor savings, you're seeing some increase in throughput. The fact that, you're introducing these new exciting things, we hear that feedback all the time, both from staff and administration, but also the students as well, having this fluid, consumer friendly, innovative experience. It isn't just, like you said, like a physical, a single experience, but that connotes to the overall brand of the university, to the dining team. So absolutely, I think whenever, that becomes the kind of the easy win with these technologies is, in addition to these operation and sales benefits, there's this immediate kind of puff in how the consumer, the student views the campus dining team. Absolutely.
So what are you thinking is happening next for Grubhub? Like, what's the new innovation that you're working on, if you can share, or other things, other problems that you're hearing down the pike that you're trying to solve for?
I love that question. I think the problems have always been the same, right? Again, I always remember, the biggest challenge people had pre-COVID was labor, still the biggest challenge. So, I think there are always going to be these commonalities there. So I think when I think about what's next, it's often about not even necessarily the tech, but how the tech is supported in the real world. So a great example is, if you're doing a kind of a hub and spoke model with lockers, you have orders coming to the back of house, then those orders need to be prepped and staged, then they need to be run to a locker system. So, we've built a kind of a runner tool so that if you have someone running these orders between a back of house and a locker, how you make their job easier, how you make it easier, like when you walk up to a locker, not even necessarily needing to scan a QR code, but using Proxpace technology to be able to pop up a locker and near it without having to scan a code. And so I think that there's all these little micro interactions, and as these technology companies and as we continue to partner more closely, I think that's where you see a lot of these benefits. It's less about the next cool thing, and don't get me wrong, that's there too. But it's just how fluidly and well these different systems work together, both on the front end for the consumer experience, but also how we share data, how data gets to the right place. So I think that's where you kind of see a lot of the improvements, is how fluidly the systems work together to create these little micro improvements. Again, that on the surface level, you may not see, but as you experience the product, oh, wow, that's an improvement. And that's, I think, what's fun about the tech. You kind of keep making these micro improvements. Bigger picture, attendless ordering, being able to do self-serve, using robotics. And I think when I kind of think about the evolution from a campus perspective, these products have been out there. I mean, Apex has been using lockers for must be 5-6 years now. Campuses have been using robot delivery for 5-6 years. But where we're really seeing the evolution is how these products work together, to the point now where we have a campus where, you think of the campus as this one sort of radius, but the campus has different zones, and there's parts of campus that are served by lockers. There's sort of this inside circle of the campus that is served by delivery robots. There's this outer kind of donut layer of the campus that is served by delivery drivers. So I think that's where we see the kind of the cool evolution, is less about any single product, but how some of these innovative operations are using them together to create this sort of big picture innovative experience for the campus and the students.
That's so insightful. And I feel like you've covered, that's a great way to close, because it really is neat to see, and not just neat to see how all the technology works together, but practically, like you said, a lot of what I hear, like boots on the ground, is, hey, how's all my data going to talk to me as an operator? I don't want to have to go to 12 different places to figure out what my bottom line number is. And as the technology starts to mesh, more active people can be to the customer side. So it's fascinating to see what Grubhub is doing with technology, and I'm definitely following it closely. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we end the call?
No, I appreciate that. I think to your last point about the fluidity, I think that's where you have seen a lot of technical evolution in the last few years. It used to be this idea of, well, I want one app for everything, and I want one system for everything. And I understand that, but a lot of that's built on process. We have one way that we have reconciled financially over the years. And I think, the ability for systems to communicate with each other absolutely is an evolution. But, the other side of that too is, if I were to credit our success as a technology company to anything, it would not be the technology. It would be how we've provided kind of marketing and support and consultancy to make the technology work. Because, we have examples of campuses that are leveraging our tech. It's transformational. I mean, it's literally saving labor. It's massively increasing sales and throughput, but that's because it's bought in. It's a cultural part of what they do. Their local managers, their teams understand the tech, and they see it as being part of their DNA. Whereas that same tech could be used by another operation, and it was sort of slapped on after the fact. But there's no sort of human connection there, and no sort of human value there. And that's where I usually start when I'm talking to campuses is, the technology is out there, and there isn't one solution for everything. It's really about understanding what resources you can dedicate to this, what impact are you having. Is this something that you want to do just to test out, or is this something you want to build your DNA as a dining operation around? And that may be a different answer today than a year from now, but making sure you align the tech with what the campus can actually accomplish and wants to accomplish. And a lot of that is human, not innovation.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that point about the culture, and some people are like early adopters to innovation, but really what we're seeing these are the standards now. Like, this is not some of these things are not options because the customers require these order pickup solutions. It just has to be, like you said, part of DNA, and the cultural part of the team, as that team dynamic shifts too with the labor, right? Job descriptions are changing. The way people do sales, where they're seeing the profit margins shifting on their balance sheet, their profit and loss. So just interesting to see how even those hard assets are changing on their balance sheet to bring profit to their P&L. So anyway, I really appreciate having you here, Ben, and you're always so full of dynamic information and charismatic personality, and I've always enjoyed speaking to you. So we look forward to following your personal journey, and congrats again on all the success that you've had with Topingo/Grubhub all throughout the years. And I'll probably see you at a conference here in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity, and it's a great time to be in the college dining world, in the dining world. These technologies are out there, they're proven, and now we get to leverage them. And I think it's a kind of fun to see where we've come, where we are, but most importantly, sort of the easy, achievable things that we can do as a dining community.
Very true. Well, thanks, Ben. I really appreciate you joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Outside the Box. To find out how Apex can be your order pickup solution, please visit apexorderpickup.com.